All right, welcome to another Black Bear News upload. Um, Welcome to another edition of Black Bear News, where everything is connected and all the viewers are smarter than the average bear. Got a couple of things to talk about today, and thank you for tuning in. I did get over the weekend, a donation from on the Ko-Fi or Coffee, or however you want to say it, platform. And who was it? I have a name, I promise. Chris Cope. Thank you, Chris, for the donation on the Ko-Fi Coffee platform. And if you want to support the show, there are a bunch of links in the description box of whatever platform you're watching on. And you can donate to the channel that way. To those of you who donate to the show already, I thank you. All right. I'm not going to start with this one. I'm going to start with this one. Let's start with this one. There is in weather news, France is getting beaten up right now with floods, and this has been like a week long, maybe even over a week of major flooding in Eastern Europe and now Europe. They just can't seem to catch a break. That is pretty major flooding. Again, how many floods, major extreme weather events have we seen this year? It seems to be constant these days. This is the new normal. I know everybody wants to say that this is or a popular thing to say is that they're controlling the weather. Yes, they are controlling the weather, but it's a bigger thing than just turning on some kind of death ray or something, or pulling a lever in the mountain where Dr. Doom lives. It's called poisoning and polluting the planet for a century or over a century will lead to a disruption in the weather around the world, all over the planet, and that's called climate change. It's very Occam's razor. It's very simple if you kind of look at the overview of it. That isn't to say that there isn't weather manipulation going on or that they don't have the technology. Obviously, that is true also. But as an they just don't have the. This is a product of polluting and poisoning the planet to a point where the planet decides not to cooperate anymore, and we are now experiencing the effects that they told us, the effects of climate change that they told us would be happening in the middle of the century or the end of the century. It's actually 2024, and we're experiencing it now. And along those lines, bigger, faster, stronger storms. There is a hurricane brewing in the Gulf that looks to be on track to hit Florida. It is not a hurricane yet, but they are predicting that by Thursday or Friday, it could be striking the coast of Florida. We're going to look at this a little bit more. HWRF model shows a Category 4 hurricane hitting Florida, similar to Hurricane Floyd. That they say costed. That is incorrect English. Cost $6.5 billion in damage. Floyd on the right, and the Invest 97 model on the left. And this is what they're saying it's going to come around. Cuba. And we have a little more on this. Pretty sure this is the same storm, even though it's hard to. Yeah, yes, this is the same storm. Sometimes it can be hard to tell. I don't know why this is taking so long to load and why the Fox website is so trash, but we'll try to read this while it's figuring out what to do.
If you're shopping,
we don't need that. No, sir. We definitely don't need that.
For a home,
no, definitely don't need that. Okay, let's turn that off. Millions of people from Louisiana to Florida are keeping their eyes. There we go. There we go. There we go. Millions of people from Louisiana to Florida are keeping their eyes on potential tropical cyclone 9, which was designated in the Caribbean Sea on Monday. It is forecast to wreak havoc on the U.S. Gulf Coast later this week. Potential tropical cyclone designation permits the National Hurricane Center to issue routine advisories on a system that has not yet developed into a tropical depression or tropical storm, but brings a threat of 39 plus mile per hour winds to land within 48 hours. This falls within the time window of posting tropical storm and hurricane alerts, allowing the NHC to issue them with additional lead time and provide at-risk people with more advance notice of possible impacts in their area. We'll see if we can. No?
If you're shopping for a home, Realtor...
Golly gee, nobody really cares about this. Can we just see a video? Apparently not. And ain't nobody got time for that. According to the NHC, there is a potential for a dangerous and life-threatening storm. Storm surge, heavy rain, strong winds to impact the Florida Panhandle and the west coast of Florida. Residents in those areas should monitor the latest forecast updates and ensure they have a hurricane plan in place. So that is happening in the Gulf. Anybody in those affected areas, please be on the lookout. And the Eastern Seaboard just got over once in a 500-year, once in a 1,000-year, whatever you want to call it, flood event. And we'll see if this, once it actually hits the Florida coast, if it keeps on traveling up through the mid-Atlantic states. We'll see. Evidence that, we're going to jump to another story. This is evidence that maybe the Democrats are the fascist ones. We don't know. It's hard to tell these days. Which party is the fascist party? I don't know. This is AOC advocating for censorship, echoing, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, other people saying, oh, the people are saying bad things. The truth. People are saying bad things on the internet, and we've got to rein it in. And this is well, this is a tried and true, but also kind of threadbare tactic now, right? This has been going on for almost a decade, where the crazy right-wing fascists are saying the bad things on social media, so we've got to censor them, which makes us the right-wing fascists. No, absolutely not. We're the left. We care about people. We love people. That's why we're doing this. We do this out of love and with joy. This is AOC pleading.
I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy, because that is a part of what happened here. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. It's one thing to have differing opinions, but it's another thing entirely.
It's one thing to have differing opinions, but it's another thing entirely to actually tell the truth when we're trying to lie to you and we need you to believe that lie. And if you don't believe that lie, well, that's the other thing. That's the other thing we don't want to have happen. So we need to actually make sure nobody questions our lies. Just wanted to interpret what she's saying there.
Really, to just say things that are false.
They just can't say things that are false. But there's no there's no holding accountable or accountability for the politicians or the federal agencies or the government at large. There's no accountability for those people when they lie to you. So, but if you lie, that is clearly reprehensible, and we can't have that at all.
So that's something that we're looking into. I do think that.
Oh. And she tried to look so cute when she said that, but it just, I don't know if it flew. Jimmy Dore, also doing a bit of translating. The transformation from progressive to authoritarian fascist is now complete. Here, AOC advocates for censorship of free speech and anyone who opposes the establishment narrative. Remember, the establishment doesn't censor you for lying. They only censor the truth. And that's what she's really advocating for here. Censorship of the truth. The biggest spreaders of misinformation is the government, which is currently headed by Joe Biden, wherever he might be. But when he lies, it's okay. It's the truth about those lies that she wants censored, not lies. Julian Assange was not in prison because he was lying. He was in prison because he was telling the truth about the U.S. war machine. It's the truth that scares the establishment, not the lies. And now AOC reveals she has been absorbed 100% into the establishment, that she was elected to oppose. And Mike Benz is going to explain a little bit about what media literacy means or what it is. He said the media literacy scam is about getting hundreds of thousands of paid professional censors on government payroll all over the country. They're paying and training an entire censorship mercenary army to put in charge of the minds of your kids. So he's going to explain this a little bit. And this is just an extension of what I have, I've called out on my channel, right? You have, on certain platforms, we have seen, people who are vehemently opposed to whatever it is I'm saying, get up into the chats, excuse me, and try to counter what I'm saying, but they're not really countering it with arguments or facts or anything like that. They're just kind of like countering it with, you're a liar, you're a Russian Putin supporter, you're a, whatever, fill in the blank. And this is just, they want to put this kind of out in the open. They want to make sure there's people out there like, it's what fact checks are. It's trying to censor people in real time with, trying to censor misinformation with, you guessed it, misinformation. Let's listen to Mike Benz.
Hey, I'm traveling this week and don't have the bandwidth to make the video that I really want to make on this, but I just want to put something short on the record real quick here about the media literacy scam. Now, this is something that I've been talking about for 5, almost 6 years about this specific scam, but it's accelerated in the past year, and it's really, really accelerated just in the past month, faster than I was expecting it to. And so I want to try to get it out to other people to focus on this while I'm doing other mission critical things. Media literacy, the scam works like this, okay? They're rolling it out in the education system, and they're rolling it out at colleges. They're rolling it out at the science level in academia. They're rolling it out at the researcher level and at the censorship for-profit institution level. But they're also especially embedding it at the K through 12 level. And what is it? What is media literacy? When you hear the words media literacy, you fixate on the word literacy, and you think they're talking about underserved, underprivileged inner city schools with kids who can't read, because we have an epidemic of illiteracy and low literacy rates among a lot of our youth. So you hear that word literacy and you think that's what they're talking about. That is not what it is at all. Media literacy says if you don't read the right media sources, official state-backed media or government sources or regime-compliant media, then you are illiterate. You are media illiterate, and you need to get your mind right to read the right media sources. So media literacy is just regime media installation, and it is about institutional embedding of censorship organs within K through 12 schools, within higher ed, and then at the capacity building side by tons and tons of government money propping this up. Now, let's just go through a couple of levels of this. So the methods, media literacy is literally about training you to be stupid, to be dumb. The underlying presupposition of the field, the illegitimate field of media literacy, is that if you do critical thinking, you will become a heretic. You will become a wrong thinker, a dissident, a heterodox person. If you think critically, if you go down the rabbit hole, if you do your own independent research, you will not trust the regime. You will not trust the system. You will not trust government narratives. You won't trust legacy mainstream media. And so they teach methods. The curriculums for media literacy programs are about how not to do your own research. I'm not joking. You can look all this up. For example, the SIFT method is one of these core things that have been developed, and it just says when you have a research topic and you want to look something up for school, you want to look something up in your own private time, don't go down the rabbit hole. Don't think independently. Sift through the top 10 results of a Google search and Wikipedia approved sources. Now,
Okay, that's all I'm going to play of that, but you get the idea of it. And it's kind of reminiscent of when Trump was first elected in 2016, and they claimed he was elected by by fake news stories and fake media online, right? And so there was a big push after he was elected to say like, oh, you should only get news from trusted sources. This is why Donald Trump was elected, because people got news from other places than trusted, and that is absolutely ridiculous, and that was absolutely a lie. But it actually worked. I saw it firsthand work with people. I saw people saying like, I'm afraid to go to get information from other places. Come on now. Information is not scary. Information is just information. You get the information. You look at the information. You choose whether you want to believe the information or whether it makes sense to you or not. And then you either accept the information or you reject the information. But the information itself is not scary. Again, they're trying to counter misinformation with misinformation, right? We want to make sure that you only go to the source, the oracle of truth, which is the government or the top 10 searches of Google, or whatever it is we want to tell you. And if you don't listen to that, then definitely you're wrong. Whatever it is you're listening to, it's crazy talk. And take off your tinfoil hat, please. Anyways, we've covered this. We've talked about this extensively. This is nothing new, but they are at every level. They seem to be ramping this up more and more. So I don't know what to tell you. Be on the lookout for that. Resist this. Push back on this. definitely go out and do your own research. Definitely get all the information you can from everywhere. Share all the information you can from everywhere, and definitely push back on the idea that somebody else, somebody in authority is going to tell you the facts, and not let you discover them for yourself, right? Because that is truly what freedom is. Even the freedom to discover wrong facts is actually freedom. All right. One more comment on this from Edgar Friendly. This is the organization being the government, that brought you, there's WMDs in Iraq, safe and effective. If you like your plan, you can keep it. Remember that one? That's an oldie but goodie. Trust me, bro. The country that canceled its elections. Well, this is the this is the one that's a little weird for me. The country that canceled its elections. Was there a time when we canceled our elections? Not really remembering that. But maybe he's talking about the installation of Kamala. Maybe he's talking about the fact that there was no primary. There was a primary, but you could not engage in the primary in challenging the primary candidate, which was Joe Biden at the time. I don't know if that's what they're talking about, but if anybody knows, please help me out. Russia colluded with Trump. Trust me, bro. Now they want to police everything and anything they think doesn't go along with their trust me, bro narratives. Exactly. So, this is why people don't have any faith in mainstream media anymore or the government anymore. And this is why, people will go out of their way to believe anything, anything that's anti-establishment narrative. So what you do is you create, this makes everybody more stupid, right? Because you create people, a column of people on one side who are like, no, whatever you're saying is crazy talk. If it's not the mainstream narrative, you're absolutely insane. You're out of your mind. I can't believe what you're saying. And please get away from me, or I'm going to unfollow you now, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the other side, which are people that, for the most part, might be more on the sane side because they're like, no, I'm skeptical of this narrative. But you set up a situation where people go in the opposite direction just as hard, which is like anything that the establishment narrative says, anything on this side of the column of truth or lies is a lie, right? And it actually sets up people believing things just because it's anti-whatever. And so it's this ping pong back and forth of like, people just being more and more dumbed down, which is not a healthy way for a society to be. Anyways, that's part of what's going on today. Lastly, we're going to talk about Marcellus Williams, and I've already gone over time, way over the time that I wanted to go. But Marcellus Williams is in Missouri, and he is scheduled to be executed this week. But there's been several trials or grand juries or convening of judges, which has found Marcellus Williams either not guilty or lots of evidence pointing to the fact that he was not guilty, and maybe they should rethink his death penalty. But they seem to be intent on putting him to death, and it's a very terrifying story. 200 people. This is from Lee Camp. 200 people the U.S. government has executed since 1973. Have been proven innocent posthumously, and the next innocent man may be Marcellus Williams, scheduled to die tomorrow. Right, and this is why people have issues with the death penalty, because it's often used. People, especially people of color, are often found guilty through faulty legal tactics, right? And so in the end, people end up being put to death or dying who were not guilty. which is one of the most horrific, I think, fates a human could suffer. Anyways, this is from Rolling Stone. Even the prosecutor asked for Marcellus Williams' conviction to be vacated, but he's still scheduled to be executed next week, despite DNA evidence. The evidence on the weapon did not match. The DNA evidence on the weapon used in this crime did not match his DNA. This is Angel Jones. I'm so tired of having to fight for the innocent black lives, but I'm even more tired of losing them. Yeah, this is a frightful story. I listened to a video on this last night, and it's horrific how much evidence, and even the family of the victim said, we have problems with this case, and we would like, maybe a stay of execution or more time to find out what's really going on with this. But we'll look at this story. Hold on one second. Just a little more. A death row inmate set to die tomorrow might be innocent. Prosecutor. The prosecutor says. Now a high court will hear the case. One day before he's scheduled to be executed, a Missouri death row inmate could learn whether his fate will change. After the state Supreme Court hears arguments in his case, Marcellus Williams, 55, was convicted of killing Felicia Gale, a former newspaper reporter found stabbed to death in her home in 1998. 1998. That is a long time ago. Marcellus Williams. So he's been he's been locked up since then. Williams has long insisted he is innocent, and in an unusual move, St. Louis County's top prosecutor filed a motion in January to vacate Williams' 2001 conviction and sentence. Prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell and Williams' lawyer on Saturday filed a joint brief asking the Missouri Supreme Court, which is hearing the case Monday, to send it back to a lower court for a more comprehensive hearing of the January request by Bell, a Democrat now running for Congress. The case raised the specter of a potentially innocent person being executed, an inherent risk of capital punishment. At least 200 people sentenced to death since 1973 were later exonerated. Williams is set to be executed at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, Central Time, unless the courts or Republican Governor Michael Parson intervene. Why attorneys on both sides teamed up in a joint brief. Bell and Williams attorneys argue that St. Louis County Circuit Court failed to credit newly disclosed evidence that contradicts representations by the prosecutor in Williams' 2001 trial and his prior appeals. The prosecuting attorney's office, which handled the trial against Williams, argued in a January motion that DNA testing of the murder weapon could exclude Williams as Gale's killer, but the argument fell apart last month after new DNA testing revealed the murder weapon had been mishandled, contaminating the evidence meant to exonerate Williams and complicating his quest to prove his innocence. Well, that would throw the evidence out. If it was mishandled, you'd have to throw that out, wouldn't you? The brief also said the court mistakenly ruled the prosecutor's contamination of DNA evidence did not violate Williams' due process right. What? Say what? And the state attorney general's efforts to prevent reconsideration of Williams' conviction may have compromised proceedings in the circuit court. The attorneys asked the Missouri Supreme Court to vacate the circuit court's decision and remand the case for a new hearing to give both sides time to present evidence and the court enough time to carefully consider the case. There is a lot more information around this case, but I've got to wrap this video up. But this is why I'm not a fan of capital punishment in general, because too many innocent people are put to death, and I I think life in prison is cruel enough punishment. All right, guys, that's all the time that I have. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hanging out. I'll be back tomorrow at around 11 a.m. again with either a live stream or an upload or another video. And thanks for listening, always. Thanks for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. And until next time, peace.